Welcome to episode 129 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Championship Players edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm here with my co-host, Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. It was an interesting weekend of racing, and somehow Kevin Harvick has two back-to-back wins after going winless for nearly 2 years. So it was an interesting weekend of racing there. And then, of course, we got a lot of other things to talk about upcoming this week. And, of course, we got football is back now, and we'll get into the fantasy later. So, ready to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Harvick, back-to-back victories for him. As you said, a huge for him. He's really solidified himself now. 2 weeks ago, he was in a position where he might not have made the playoffs, and now he might be one of the favorites for this championship, which is insane. The Fords had a great weekend at Richmond this past weekend, so we'll get into all that. The Toyotas also wasn't exactly the greatest day for Chevrolet, but, it was a better Richmond race than we've seen in recent times. The strategy was there, like at the spring race, but I think most of the teams subscribed to the one strategy, so it didn't really deviate. There weren't that many cautions. There were comers and goers, so it was actually a good race. I watched basically the whole thing. I mean, that was the only race in town this weekend, really. That was on live. That we're at a reasonable time, I guess. So we'll get into the Cup race at Richmond. We'll also get into the trucks at Richmond, which saw Chandler Smith add to his recent swing with another victory and puts himself smack dab into the conversation yet again. I mean, he was in the conversation even before Indianapolis, but now getting himself into the round of 8 with ease. Now he's trying to get playoff points, get bonus points and the whole bit at Kansas in a month's time to give himself a better chance to advance to Phoenix in the final 4. The roundup will discuss the Seoul Prix for Formula E, the last race of their season, which saw Stoffel Van Dorn become a Formula E world champion as Mercedes leaves Formula E as a constructor and a team itself. They're going to sell out to McLaren. That team's going to essentially be the McLaren team next year, which, of course, when you consider McLaren and Zach Brown, who knows who he has signed for that opportunity. There's been some other moves in Formula E, but we'll get into them more later on, I guess. NHRA raced at Topeka this past weekend. We'll go through the winners there. Antron Brown gets his first win as a car owner. Troy Coughlin Jr. wins 2 races in a row in Pro Stock, trying to insert himself into the mix for the championship. And Joey Gladstone has won 2 races in a row after never winning before. So Pro Stock Motorcycle getting very interesting. The Knoxville Nationals saw Donnie Schatz come back. He was running 6th at halfway. He ran the Danny Lasowski line in the second half of the race to go and beat David Gravel, pass him with 4 laps to go, and become an 11-time winner of the Knoxville Nationals. I had a feeling about Donnie going into this past weekend. He's my guy in sprint cars other than Rico Abreu. He's a legend, and he's only one Knoxville Nationals win away from tying Steve Kinser, the king of the world of Outlaws. So big weekend for Donnie Schatz, for Ford Performance, for Tony Stewart Racing to get that victory there at Knoxville. And we'll preview MotoGP and Moto2, which will be at Austria Red Bull Ring. Supercars will be at Sandown this coming weekend. There's talks. There's also stuff with the Gen 3. There's the teams that are doing the one-offs at Bathurst. There's some announcements on that in regards to those cars on motorsport.com, so I might get into that. We'll preview IndyCars at Gateway Worldwide Technology Raceway. 3 races to go in their season. 7 drivers within 58 points of the points lead. So that will be something to look at. It'll be an earlier start. It'll be a mid-evening start, so it'll still be warm at Gateway. It might add to a little bit of the action there. to see who can come through, who we look at to come through and win as they lead into the final 2 races of West Coast Swing at Portland and Laguna to end the season. Cup and Xfinity will race at Watkins Glen. Multiple international drivers will be in the Cup race, including one Kimi Räikkönen, the 2007 Formula One world champion, a man who has driven many types of cars. He will be driving for Trackhouse Racing this weekend in the Project 91 car. I'm just here for him doing press conferences. That's really what I'm here for. I know he's going to be fast because he's Kimi Räikkönen, and he actually seems engaged. And he'll probably go to the whatever the Watkins Glen. I forget what the big inn. They have the inn over there, and he's probably going to go and do his best James Hunt impression, either on Saturday or Sunday.
Have a lot of beers.
Yeah, he's going to get drunk and probably get some woman naked. That would only be right for Kimi Räikkönen. Mike Rockenfeller, who has won many sports car races, major sports car races, will be making a Cup debut. Danny Kvyat will be making his second start for the Hensenberg team. So there's only 39 cars. So there's no issues with DNQs or anything. So everyone's going to make the field. So a lot of road course aces and interesting names there. A lot of Cup regulars will be in the Xfinity race. So that'll kind of change it up a little bit there. We'll get into football because there was games this past weekend. Me as a 49er fan, very happy with what I saw. Josh, the Jacksonville Jaguars, all systems look good for you as well. Didn't hear anything bad. So we're kind of feeling good about that. We also get to talk about the Fall Brawl League. Josh, of course, is in multiple leagues, but he's in mine. This is the one that matters most to me. Josh has been really good in it. But we'll get into all that. We'll do some deep dives in that, draft position, the whole bit. Josh will talk about iRacing and other simulations and games in his sim segment, and we'll close the deal. You were going to say something about Jacksonville there.
Yeah, for Jacksonville, on that, it was an interesting game. We'll get into it later, but satisfied with the first string. Looks fairly solid. Defense looks like 2017 reminiscent, so excited to see it. But yeah, we'll get into it later.
Sorry, I wanted to open it without it on the sound, but who cares? It's not a Busch Light, but it's something better. But the guy who's sponsored by Busch Light went and won his 60th Cup race. Won Kevin Harvick. Won at Richmond. A big victory for him in this spot to go and win the Federated Auto Parts 400. I'm not going to do the acronym that was going around on social media for multiple reasons. He wins the Federated Auto Parts 400, leading the last, 47 laps of the race and 55 laps total. And his second win of the season, of course, 2 wins in a row. Christopher Bell was probably a turn away from passing him with newer tires. The Joe Gibbs Racing trio had went with an alternative strategy, going a few laps longer and then pitting. Chris Buescher, or as Junebug likes to call him, Christopher Buescher, finished third. Christopher Buescher actually changed his social media just to go and fit that. Christopher Buescher!
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. It's so good. Junebug is mainstream because my mom's like, who's that guy with that drawl? And I'm like, that's Junior. Who's that one that's really loud and high screeching? That's Junior. Yep. And he's going into Christopher Buescher, and then he was calling Christopher Bell Chris Bell, and I forget who else he changed their name. I'm like, I want him to go full send, get the full government of everybody, and start saying their full names. I want William Clyde Elliott.
William Bubba Wallace.
Yeah.
or William Darrell Wallace, and who else?
Yeah.
William Byron, of course, already goes by
Yeah.
William. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go full government
Will
everywhere.
Byron. Yeah, he needs to go full government everywhere. That'd be next level. Dennis Hamlin, fourth. William Clyde Elliott, fifth. Gilbert Godfrey Jr., sixth. That Truax kid from Mayetta, New Jersey, seventh. Eric Almirillo, Kyle Busch, and Ryan Blaney round out your top 10. There were only 11 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race. The first 2 lap cars and Gumby, Austin Cindric, and Bubba Wallace did play a part in the end of the race for sure. But, I mean, Kevin Harvick getting that victory. Logano led the most laps in the race. Chastain led he started second, won the first stage, was dominant in the first stage, and then got passed by Logano. Logano led essentially the better part of the next 220 laps of the race outside of, pit stop sequences. And then Denny Hamlin, it was Kevin Harvick passed him there and Hamlin, and eventually Kevin Harvick passed him for the victory. But a big day for Ford, big day for Kevin Harvick. He's now inside the cut. He has no problem worrying about making the playoff. He is now fourth in playoff standings in regards to wins and points. Playoff points I have to get into more, but huge for Kevin Harvick in this spot to go and get that victory. I mean, he needs it was a tale of like 2 weeks. So it went from doom and gloom to they might have a chance. And Christopher Bell, the guy that finished second, is somebody everyone has to look at too.
Yeah, it's interesting with Kevin Harvick. For the whole year, I think the whole storyline was not only him being winless, but also Stuart Haas struggling. And today, not today, but yesterday was a tale of a different story. Of course, last week Harvick winning, but this week not only Harvick was winning, but Ford was up front. Logano was up there. Ryan Blaney was up there for a bit. Chase Briscoe was up there for a bit until he had the issue with his exhaust pipe, and then fell, I think, 1 or 2 laps down towards the end, and he had a good run. Eric Almirola had a good run too. So a lot of Ford guys had a really good race there this weekend at Richmond. So for Kevin Harvick, now at 60 career wins, there's a statistic on social media being shared when he got his 20th win at Richmond back in 2013. It took him 12 years to achieve that, and then since then he's gone on to achieve 60 career wins. So it tells you just the amount of winning that he's done since 2013, especially after leaving RCR and going to Stuart Haas.
Since joining Stuart Haas, yeah.
Yeah, it's very insane. And then not only that, but if you go back to 2010, he had 2 winless years, 2008, 2009. Since 2010, he's got the most wins in the Cup Series. So there's a very strong case to be made that Kevin Harvick was probably actually the best driver, or at least the winningest driver of the 2010s, based on wins at the least. I think you have to also think about the amount of championships for Kevin Harvick as well. He's only got 1 title, but I think he probably could say he probably deserved to have at least 2 more. If you go by the old system, the original system, should have won 2010 championship, and then the 2015 and 16 titles should have been Kevin Harvick's. If it weren't for the chase and then the playoff resets that they did in the current era that they have now. So a strong case to be made there for him being that, and then it's also just like, how does he have only 1 championship? And I think same thing for Kyle Busch as well. How does Kyle Busch only have 1 championship? Well, because of the system that we have. Yeah, 2. Yeah, that's true.
The system. He has 2 because of this system. He might not have any. I guess we could go back.
There's a lot of debate about that too. But I think Kyle Busch probably could have had maybe 1 or 2, or at least 1. But notwithstanding, I think both of those guys, for the amount of wins that they have in their careers, you have to wonder why they didn't win any more championships, and a lot of debate that we can go back and forth on that. But yeah, for Harvick, it does show how dominant he's been since then. Even of course, had the winless streak last year. But yeah, this was an interesting race. Not a whole lot of physical action. Of course, the one major incident in the race was Kyle Busch getting chastained in turn 3 and turn 4. It's become a verb now in NASCAR, and Kyle was very smart to use that in his post-race interview there. So that was pretty funny to hear him say that. Chastain, continuing to be aggressive, and he was got in too hot, I think, into turn 1 or turn 3 and 4, the middle of that corner, and got into Kyle Busch, got into Martin Truex. So that was the only real major incident there, I think, of that race. The rest of it was basically long green flag runs. Joey Logano, of course, very dominant throughout the race. He had a good run for the most part, then faded towards the end. The broadcast mentioned that seemed to be better on newer tires on shorter runs, but then as the run progressed, you could see him fade. And stage 2, he started to fade, and Kyle Larson started to close in at the end of stage 2, and then on stage 3, he was in the lead, but then Kevin Harvick was able to catch him on before the next to last pit stop and pass him. And then, of course, he faded away. And then, like you mentioned earlier, Christopher Buescher, as Dale Jr. is calling him now, was able to catch up to Harvick, and then got within probably about a half of a second or less from Harvick, but couldn't get up to him after that, burned up the tires, couldn't get around lap traffic. Of course, Bubba Wallace was kind of in the middle of that as well. I think there were some other drivers involved. Chris Bell, I think, was there too. So Chris Bell, Cindric was there. Chris Bell, I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'm thinking of the other Toyotas there, but he ran into lap traffic in the end. So Chris Buescher couldn't get the win there, and that was honestly for me the maybe the bigger shakeup because Kevin Harvick has 2 wins now, solidifies his spot. There's still only 1 spot remaining with 2 spots left or 2 races left. But if a guy like Chris Buescher had won, then throws everything for a loop. We finally get our 16th winner with 2 races to go, and somebody that's not even in the top 20 in points, suddenly in the playoffs, and that would have thrown the playoffs for a real shakeup there in terms of the lineup. So we'll see how it goes. I think Chris Buescher, Watkins Glen, we get into it later, but he's good at road courses this year, so there's a good chance we could see Chris Buescher get a win at Watkins Glen or possibly even Daytona. He's good there too. So solid effort all around by the Fords. I think for the most part, it was one of those races where you had to let things play out over the long green flag run, and it does kind of show the demonstrating the next gen car not being well to pass on short tracks. I think that battle with Harvick and Logano there to take the lead from him, I think that probably could have lasted maybe 2 to 3 laps in the old car, whereas this car, you really had to work at it. Clean air, I think, was definitely a factor with being able to get around him. It seemed like it took him about 20 laps or so to get around Joey Logano there to make that pass, which effectively was for the win there. So that was a interesting dynamic to the race, and definitely this was I think a pretty solid race for a Richmond short track race in the daytime.
And that was one thing too. They start the race so late. It was sunny at the start of the race, and you saw certain cars up there, and they ran up front, and then it got really cloudy and overcast, and it seemed like the race changed. It almost became like a night race again at Richmond, where you barely could pass. It was very one groove. I mean, there were drivers going in multiple grooves. Yeah, when you had newer tires, people passing, but it seemed like you were stuck. And that was something that, I noticed that if they had run the race out 2:00 in the afternoon, or they'd started it maybe an hour and a half earlier, 2:15, maybe we'd have had a little more interesting race. Maybe Kevin Harvick doesn't win it. Maybe Joey Logano's able to stay there because he had a great car when the sun was out. Blaney complained his car kind of went away, and certain guys, I think Truex, some of them, their car went away once the cloud cover came along. But Harvick's car became a rocket ship. But really, Harvick was moving up the whole day, and he just was being steady, typical Kevin Harvick. And now he's in a position where He's 8th in overall points. He has 10 playoff points, so he's very low in regards to the amount of playoff points he has. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people are ahead of him in regards to that. So he would be 7th, I guess, in regards to playoff points. It shows him as 4th. It shows him as 4th based on regular season points. But, I don't know. That's on J-Ski, so who knows what it'll work out to be. As it stands right now, I mean, you go back into it. Ty Gibbs was running all right. We'll go bottom up. Ty Gibbs was running all right in a Jordan brand number 45. They had motor issues, which is rare these days. Eric Jones was running really well, qualified in the top 10. Got taken out in that Chastain deal. So those are the 2 cars that fell out of the race. Reddick had a nightmare of a weekend. Finished 31st, spun out by himself early in the race, and never really got any momentum. It was a horrible weekend. I look at my fantasy team. I'm just going to go for whatever Michael Sanders' fantasy team. I had Jones, Gibbs, and Reddick. So I had 3 of the bottom 6. I wish there was a bonus for picking the shittiest finishers, but there isn't. Cold Custard had run well for a while in the race, and then he got sent to the back. And another person who was running really well and might have had a chance to win was Chase Briscoe. He was running up front, I think, essentially the last restart of the race. He was trying to pass Kyle Larson, and they made contact, and they were trying to whatever. And that contact was essentially what led to the exhaust fire situation that ended up becoming a disaster, put his car on fire. He went from running in the top 5 to finishing 23rd, which is just, I mean, it's typical. I've gotten used to it. It's like Brad Keselowski. It's one thing for me. Briscoe runs well, and then something always happens. It's like he'll run well early, and then he'll shit the bed. In this case, he was running good late. He had one of the best cars he's had all year. He really could have won this race because Harvick won the race, and he was ahead of Harvick. He had track position on him before, a couple of them, whichever pit stop sequence it was. And then his car catches on fire, and then it's like, what the fuck? It's typical. I don't know. It's crazy. I'm getting sick and tired of it. It's funny. I told my mom this. I'm like, to root for somebody in Cup that runs 20th that always seems to figure out a way that shit always happens to them when they run 20th it's tiring. It's tiring to root for those kind of guys. I know for you, when Junior was running bad, it had to be a challenge for me.
It was challenging.
When Tony sucked for most of the end of his career, it was not good. It is not easy. The people that have those good drivers are usually miserable and LCD fucks. They don't get it. You don't understand what it means to actually run good in NASCAR and in the Cup Series. You need to value that. You need to actually have some respect and understand that it's not a given to be able to run this good and to be that good. It's why Kevin Harvick, going after 65 race, nearly 2-year winless streak, going and winning 2 races in a row, he's humbled a little bit. He's still a douche, but and he still has a receding hairline, but he's still, a great race car driver. Kyle Busch is a douche, but he's a great race car driver. He's only won 5 out of his last 118 races. Anybody think about that? He went and sold his soul for that second championship. Ever since then, he hadn't really been much of anything, even though he's a great race car driver. But people are like, oh, he's not getting sponsors and all. Like, you look at that. Those are 2 of the best drivers. Josh brought it up. You talk about 60 wins. The next person ahead of him is Earnhardt Sr. That's who's ahead of him. So you're going into getting the Bill Parcells anointing oil, drivers up in there, all the ones, which every single one of them is in the Hall of Fame. And they've passed other drivers that have made the Hall of Fame, like Rusty Wallace and the great Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson, Tony Stewart, Bill Elliott, Mark Martin, et cetera, Dale Jarrett. So you look at this. I mean, I wanted to rant because it just pissed me off because right now, I mean, the only thing I would say, I mean, Briscoe is dead last or next to last amongst winners in points. He's only 9 points ahead of Eric Jones, who finished 35th yesterday. So he was actually behind Eric Jones. So he was actually 18th in points. He's only, what is it? Was it 32 points? Yeah. He's only 32 points ahead of Bubba. And Bubba's had a big part of the year was pretty brutal. So you want to talk about a team that's not good, a team that's wasting a spot. It has all the signs of 2011. I'm like, I hear Tony saying we're just going to waste the spot in this chase. That's what the 14 car is. But what happened yesterday with that car and where he was, and if he had, I'd have adored Larson, I'd have used him up, and I'd have said fuck him, and I would have ran my way. He insisted on trying to be nice about it and fucked himself over. Like you had no problem running over Tyler Reddick at Bristol, and you didn't even win the race. Like it makes, I don't know. Like I want to understand what's going on there. There's shit inside there that nobody's really investigating because they've not been relevant most of the year since winning Phoenix outside of, the 600 and a couple other races. But it's something we're going to have to get into. I'm pretty sure we'll have Joe back on to talk about it once the playoff actually gets set up. But speaking of that, I mean, right now, outside of the Christopher Buescher going and winning yesterday, which would have made 16 different winners, now it's getting less and less likely that there will be more winners than spots. It's still entirely possible. There's 2 races to go, 2 different winners, which could, in theory, possibly knock out 2 of the top 4 in overall points, which I think would be a nightmare scenario for NASCAR. And I can already see the wheels turning where they're going to go and give a waiver, like how they had to do with Jeffy with Spingate, the whole thing. I mean, right now, Blaney, he was 19 points up going into Richmond, Josh. Now he's 32, mostly because, or 26. It was 32. He lost some spots. Essentially, he gained those points in the stage points. He had 11-1, so that was 10. He lost a few points at the end of the race because he ended up finishing. What is it? He finished 10th, and Truex finished 7th. Truex had 1. Yeah. So trying to see 31. Yeah, 7. Yeah. So that's what it is. Right now, as it stands, there's 1 spot open for points. Blaney is second in points. Clyde's going to win the regular season and get the 25 or 15 bonus points on top of that, which will definitely help him out in the playoff for sure. Right now he has 25, so he would be an easy street, I think, for about 2 rounds to get through. So, but for Blaney and Truex, they wanted more from yesterday. They both got top 10s. They both looked good at times, but I guess they're happy that Buescher didn't win that race because it would have been a real sweat for both of those drivers for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. With especially that caution that we talked about earlier with Ross Chastain and Kyle Busch. Well, Martin Truex was also involved in that, and if he had taken serious damage in that incident, then that would have been major for the championship. In Martin Truex's chances to get in would have put them in a win or a gamble situation for next week at Watkins Glen or the following week at Daytona. So there's a lot on the line for Truex here to stay in contention. And, of course, they end up coming back from that, finished 7th, and Ryan Blaney finished in 10th. But, of course, Ryan Blaney was able to get those stage points. So Yeah, this next two races, I think for both of those teams, it's going to be really interesting. I think Truex is probably going to want to try to win here next. I mean, of course, they're all trying to win, but Truex is best favored. I think is probably to win in Watkins Glen. He's won there in the past at Watkins Glen, so this is a good track for him that he could win at, and want to be able to get it done here sooner than later, because of course Daytona, I think Ryan Blaney's better suited for that than Truex. Truex, of course, not really much of a restrictor plate guy in his Cup career, so definitely think for those two guys, I think one of them is going to need to prioritize one or the other. And if they were to both win in the next 2 weeks, and we get that 17th winner, we re-rack everything. I do think, yeah, both of them make the playoffs, and then that would bump out probably Kurt Busch, since Kurt Busch is already on the edge because of his injuries and everything. And then I think it would certainly shake things up regardless. Of course, there's wilder things that could happen. We could see Eric Almirola sneak in. He's good at restrictor plate tracks, super speedway tracks. So is Bubba Wallace. He's also pretty good. I mean, Austin Dillon, former Daytona 500 winner, he could also get in. So, yeah, a lot of things that could happen here, leading up to the playoffs, the start of it. Of course, Chase Elliott, of course, already locked in, and like you said, and is going to get that points bonus, which will definitely help as they go further and deeper into the playoffs, and definitely use that nice bonus there, at least for the first round. So yeah, definitely this points battle is getting pretty tight, even though there's only room now for two new winners, but a lot can happen in these two racetracks. Watkins Glen, somebody could overdrive turn one, or going into the bus loop, take somebody out, something like that, or get spun out in the last corner. We've seen that happen before. Of course, that happened to Truex in the past, and he got spun around. So, and of course Daytona, the big one, anything can happen there as well. So, these are probably the as far as like strategy and risk factor, these are probably the next two tracks, Watkins Glen and Daytona, that could provide the most action in terms of those categories.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just got people sending money in for the league, so that's good.
I'll take care of it after the show.
Yeah, that's no problem. I mean, for you look at, Truex and Blaney, those are the two guys that are most likely to make it in this scenario. Now that Buescher didn't win yesterday, the likelihood of 17 different winners is getting to be really low. Truex has had speed, but he hasn't had race winning speed. It's almost like I don't know, a couple weeks ago they're like, oh, that last segment, after that last pit stop or last couple of pit stops, these teams are not able to close. I think both of these teams are victims of that. They've been very good early in the race. They've scored a lot of playoff points. That's why they're in the positions they're in regarding points. It doesn't really mean much since, Clyde is run off with the regular season. They wouldn't, it would be a little bit more compelling if one of them was battling Clyde for the regular season title, and then they're like, how the hell does the guy that has the regular season title or possibly could win the regular season title doesn't make the playoff? That would be an interesting thing, but as it stands, they're both top 5 in points, which I think is worth more than just winning one race randomly. And I say this as somebody who would be directly affected as a fan, because they would probably bump my driver out with that. Kurt Busch if Kurt Busch was healthy right now, Chase Briscoe would be sweating bullets in regards to his playoff. Him and Austin Cindric would both be sweating their situation. Cindric has recently been on an upswing, was on a lull for a good part of the season after that, I guess, that Daytona 500, that honeymoon period, I guess, riding high after winning the Daytona 500. He qualified well at California. And then it kind of went away after that for I don't know how many months. Ran all right at some road courses here and there. But him and Briscoe, those are the two guys that right now, points-wise, are the closest. They're, 7 points apart from each other. And they're the two worst drivers that are not Kurt Busch, who hasn't run in 4 races. So, you have to give it with a grain of salt there. Two worst drivers that are in this playoff. I mean, this point standings that NASCAR gives is garbage. They really need to do a better breakdown than what they do. It's a terrible breakdown. You need to go to I don't know what the heck that is. I mean, when it comes to who's going to get in there, I mean, Cindric is 7 points ahead right now. The only person that will really be affected if Blaney and Martin Truex somehow or another won would be Kurt Busch. He'd be screwed, really. He would need a miracle. He'd need to show up this weekend and race and at number 1, and then he'd have to have a good weekend if he doesn't win. And if he does win, then it doesn't matter either. Then that puts either Briscoe or Cindric on the bump, along with, essentially, I mean, not real. I mean, I guess at that point it wouldn't matter because that would be a second win for Kurt Busch. It would be about that 1 point spot. And even if it was that would be more on Blaney and Truex. But I guess we'll get into that more as we go along. I mean, right now, 10 drivers, they said, were locked in, right? After the race on Sunday, I think the top 10, they said something like that. It was the graphic or whatever they had going on NBC was like the top 10 in points, or Elliott, Chastain, Logano, Harvick, Byron, Hamlin, Reddick, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Busch are all going to make the playoff no matter what they do. So then after that, that's the battle comes after that from Bowman, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe and Kurt Busch, and then Blaney and Truex, who are the two big points guys. But you look at some of these drivers here, you look at people who have not won a race. You have Eric Almirola, who's the highest place driver that hasn't, outside of the top 2. He's ahead of Briscoe by 3 points. He's only behind Cindric by 4. That would be an interesting little deal there. Eric Jones is in that mix. Losing out at Richmond was a big problem. So those two guys are in play. Bubba Wallace is also in play. But he needs a little bit of help points-wise. He needs to actually have a great race at Watkins Glen, which would be something if he actually pulled that out of his ass. Bald spot Dillon in 20th. Buescher would need to win, and he'd need to pass Kurt Busch. That's right now he's only 5 points behind Kurt Busch, so he's the most likely scenario there. Though I mean the scenarios are in play for a 16th winner. It would be nice. I think honestly at this point I was kind of hoping for the Chris Buescher win because of all the craziness that would have come from this next 2 weeks. Also with how strategies would work at Watkins Glen because of some of these teams putting an emphasis on getting playoff points and whatever, getting stage points. I think that would have played a different role, but we will see what happens this weekend at Watkins Glen. Let's move on to a race that wasn't that interesting. The Truck Series race at Richmond on Saturday night, the Worldwide Express 250 for carrier appreciation. Saw Chandler Smith get the victory and move himself right up to the top of the point standings. He won over his teammate John Hunter Nemechek. Smith won one of the stages. Ty Majeski started on pole, won the first stage, lost track position, avoided one of his jackman who fell down. I think he got into him, but somehow or another his jackman got back up. There were the only 3 drivers that led on Saturday night. Grant Enfinger finished 4th, Corey Heim 5th. The 51 made the playoff for Owners Championship. Taylor Gray in the 17 truck made the playoff, Owners Championship, same thing. Matt Crafton, Christian Eckes, Zane Smith, off day for another race. So 2 out of the last 3 races haven't really ran so well for Zane Smith, so that's something to look at. Carson Hocevar finishes in the top 10. Stuart Friesen started 3rd, got stage points, but only finished 11th. And then you have Ankrum, who got stage points in both stages. Ben Rhodes got no stage points and finished 18th, the defending series champion, 2 laps down. 14 trucks finished on the lead lap. I mean, there really wasn't much to talk about. Majeski dominated the first stage. I'm trying to look at who failed to qualify. Yeah, so that guy got the ride in one of the, okay. Tyler Hill failed, okay. All right, I was just curious who failed to qualify. But, Chandler Smith, yeah, he led the first lap. Then Majeski led the first stage there. And then from stage, the stage 2 conclusion, 8 laps. How does it take 8 laps that's something we need to probably get into, whether it's with Joe or whatever. How does it take 8 laps from a stage end to get into the next stage? That just makes no sense whatsoever. It's a waste of time is what that is. It's part of what makes stage racing a joke. But, Chandler Smith led, 176 laps, and he led from lap 76. He led the first lap, and then he led from lap 76 to 250. Majeski led 73, and John Hunter led 1. Only 3 cautions. Race was under 2 hours, so it was actually very efficient. And then only 1 truck fell out of the race too, which is crazy. Chandler Smith, it goes back to the whole story. We know Kyle Busch, Toyota wants to keep him, especially because of Kyle Busch Motorsports and having the truck program and building this development deal. Chandler Smith's one of their guys. You see Christopher Bell, he's finally starting to hit that stride and be that guy. Well, Chandler Smith's the next one. You have other people like John Hunter, Sammy Smith, et cetera. They don't want to lose that. Chandler Smith goes and dominates at Richmond, and essentially he's going to be a guy that we're going to be talking about here. This schedule is going to be a joke for the next few months, but he's going to be a guy we're going to be talking about the rest of this season. We've been talking about him all year anyway, but we're going to be really talking about him when it counts in October and November. When we get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, it's interesting how, this season's played out for Chandler Smith, because I don't think he was really on my radar or maybe it might have been on some people's radars, but, certainly for a lot of people, wasn't probably like who they would have thought to be the guy here in the playoffs, being the championship leader. We would have thought it would have been John Hunter Nemechek trying to do what he did last year, but it looks like the 18's having his chance at having a title and could potentially level it into a ride in Xfinity either next year or in 2024. So there's a lot to consider there in terms of that. But yeah, this race was not really anything to watch. Wasn't very compelling. So with the way things played out, Chandler Smith, of course, benefited from having a good pit stall and being able to control the race that way, and led 176 laps. So there wasn't really much of racing here, and I think everybody across the board could say that, this was not compelling, very, very boring race to watch, and it's not a whole lot going on here. So don't really have too much to say other than that. You go look at the points, of course. points-wise, Chandler Smith leading it, of course. Zane Smith still in second, and then John Hernachek in third. I think, Carson Hocevar, Christian Eckes on the outside looking in for the cutoff. And then Matt Crafton on the bubble there, only 3 points ahead of Carson Hocevar. So there could be a lot of things that could happen, in the next race, to cut off for the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. Not sure how well Crafton will do going in to the next round or going into the next race, but that could be tight. That might be a battle that they focus on. As you got 3 drivers who are within 6 points of each other on the bubble. So we'll see if Carson Hocevar, who of course has made a lot of impressive runs this year, hasn't had a win yet. Can he do something in the next truck race to be able to move on into the playoffs here as we move forward towards the end of the season in the truck series?
Yeah, it's something that we're going to look at for sure. The battle right now for the cutoff is between Matt Crafton, Christian Eckes, his teammate, Carson Hocevar. Crafton's up by 3 over Hocevar. Eckes is -6. So those are the 3 drivers that are on the cut line. Ben Rhodes had a nightmare evening and now is only 21 points above that cut line. So right now there's a strong possibility that 2 ThorSport trucks could get knocked out of this first round of the playoff, which would suck for them, in regards to their team getting all 4 of their trucks into the playoffs itself and then not get knocked out that quickly. The speed hasn't generally been there for the organization. Majeski's had it at moments. Ben Rhodes won that one race earlier in the year. It's something to see. I mean, likelihood of them actually going and doing something when it matters to be determined. It would be hard to see them actually make anything happen. But we'll find out at Kansas here in a month's time. It's going to be a while till we see the trucks again. So right now, Chandler Smith leads the points by 2 over Zane Smith. John Hunter is 5 points back. Enfinger 7 points. Majeski is 12, 17 to Stuart Friesen. Ben Rhodes 27. Crafton on the bump, 45 points behind. So that's where it is. Chandler Smith in good stead. He's still, even with the reset right now, once they reset for the next round, he'd still be behind in points unless he goes and gets another win and wins a couple, goes and dominates a Kansas, let's say, and then he'd be able to pass Zane Smith. It's a 9-point gap between Zane Smith and Chandler Smith in playoff points. John Hunter has 17, along with Ben Rhodes, who's won 8 stages this year, and then Stuball has 13 points. So those are the 5 that really have a lot of the playoff points. Majeski, Enfinger are up there, and then also Christian Eckes, who has 7 playoff points. So that's something we have to see how that all works out. We have plenty of time until that comes into play. The Roundup, let's go and get into that. Roundup will start with Formula E, the Seoul E Prix. They had a double header this past weekend in South Korea. Saw Mitch Evans win race 1 over Oliver Rowland for Mahindra. So Mitch Evans for Jaguar, Oliver Rowland for Mahindra, Luca de Grassi for Venturi, Jake Dennis for Andretti Autosport, and Stoffel Van Dorn for Mercedes in the top 5. Jean-Eric Verne for DS Techeetah, Pascal Verlaine for Porsche, Robin Franz for Virgin Racing, Antonio Felix da Casa for Techeetah, and Nick Cassidy for Virgin round out the top 10. In the second race, Eduardo Mortara wins for Venturi over Stoffel Van Dorn for the Mercedes team, going and solidifying, of course, his championship. Jake Dennis rounds out the season with a podium for Andretti Autosport. Robin Franz for Virgin, and Oliver Askew, the American driver for Andretti Autosport, rounds out the top 5. Jean-Eric Verne in 6th, Mitch Evans 7th, Nick Cassidy 8th, Sebastian Buemi for Nissan Dams in 9th, and Antonio Felix da Costa in 10th. The final standings for this season, Formula E sees Stoffel Van Dorn become world champion by 33 points over Mitch Evans. Eduardo Mortara was 3rd. Jean-Eric Verne was 4th. Luca de Grassi and Jake Dennis tied for 5th, along with Robin Freins. Antonio Felix da Costa was 8th. Nick de Vries, the defending world champion, finished 9th, and Pascal Wehrlein finished 10th. Oliver Askew ended up finishing 16th in points. Scored in the first race, and then he had score in the first first of 2 races in London, and then he got points there in the last race. He finished ahead of a lot of drivers there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drivers he finished ahead of. So, I mean, Buemi, former champion of this series, is only 6 points ahead of him. Sims, a former winner in this series, struggled for the Mahindra team. He's going back to GT racing. So there is that. Going into the news, I mean, there's been Antonio Felix da Costa's going to Porsche to replace Andre Lauderer. There's trying to go through some of these other. Luca de Grassi's going over to Mahindra for Alexander to replace Alexander Sims. You had Norman Nato filling in for Sam Bird and for Jaguar. Losing, so there's that. Trying to go through some of these other people that are the Mahindra powertrain. Yeah, Mahindra powertrain is going to be used by both the Mahindra team and Apt returning to the series. McLaren, I think, is using Nissan powertrains. Porsche is going to be supplying. Porsche is going to be supplying Andretti, the Andretti team, as well for the next season with the Gen 3 powertrain. So that's something to look at. Some of these teams, there's going to be two teams or multiple teams with the same engines and or powertrains. So that'll be something to look at. Trying to get through here, going back. Sims going to become master in the Well, he has not done much of anything, unfortunately, after the Andretti time. Going through all this, Sims Formula exam. Yeah, well, that was a month ago. Okay. There was other news. I don't know. Andretti to partner Jake Dennis. Yeah, and then Andretti. They didn't say anything about who they're going to put in there, did they? Let me just scroll back into. Yeah, they didn't even say who's going to. I mean, it's not Oliver Askew's fault. These cars are really rough to get used to and weird, and so it is what it is. Andre Lauderer, he's going to be part of the Porsche Penske program, so he may be around, he may not be. Getting into some of these other people for the LNDH, Rosenquist. Yeah, Rosenquist will be with McLaren's going to have Nissan powertrains with the new Gen 3 car. So there are some pieces. Giovinazzi is not going to be around. Mahindra confirms talks of that, but yeah, so there's that. So we'll get into it later in the year when the new season of Formula E starts, for sure. NHRA at Topeka last weekend. We're getting close to their countdown to the championship. As I mentioned, Antron Brown and Top Fuel winning for the first time as an owner, team owner. You had Bob Tasca winning in Funny Car, so Top Fuel for Antron Brown, Bob Tasca in Funny Car, Troy Coughlin Jr. in Pro Stock, and Joey Gladstone in Pro Stock Motorcycle. So now he's won back. Yeah, so 2 races in a row, and big deal for him there. Troy Coughlin Jr. going and beating Greg Anderson of all people who was trying to get his 100th win in Pro Stock, which would have been huge, but whatever. It's Greg Anderson. He could eat it. The Bob Tasca goes and wins round 3, final round, lane John Force. Yeah, well, so Bob Tasca beats John Force, and Antron Brown beats his BFF Steve Torrance. So that's a big win for them going into the last. There's 2 races to go before the countdown starts. So that's a big place there. The countdown will start after the U.S. Nationals. They'll be racing at Brainerd next weekend, and we'll talk about it here on the GSP. The standings going into the race at Brainerd. Top Fuel, Brittany Force is up by 31 points over Mike Salinas for the regular season title. Justin Ashley, Steve Torrance, all 4 of those drivers are already locked in to the countdown. You have Antron Brown with his win, got himself inside the top 10. Clay Milliken and Austin Prock are outside, so that's 10 points between Brown, Milliken, and Prock. That'll be an interesting battle. Tony Schumacher, who won at Seattle, is if you take into account, he's 22 points ahead of Austin Prock, so it's just over a round, not counting or qualifying points there and that as well. So it's a big battle amongst those 4 drivers for those last spots in the playoff for sure in Top Fuel. In Funny Car, the top 5 have locked in. Robert Height is likely going to more than likely going to win the regular season. He's 237 points out of Matt Hagan. Ron Capps is 3rd, only 6 points out of John Force. Bob Tasca with his win, he's 5th, so they're all locked in. J.R. Todd, Cruz Pentragon, Alexis DeJoria, Tim Wilkerson, and Jim Campbell round out your top 10. Jim Campbell is, 16 points ahead of Chad Green, and he's 22 points ahead of Blake Alexander. So those are the drivers that would probably make it into the playoff since they run whatever their metric is. I forget how I have to go and remember how the playoff works for them, the countdown situation. In Pro Stock, Erica Enders still leads the points. She's under 26 points out of Aaron Stanfield. Kyle Koretsky, Greg Anderson, both are locked in. All 4 of those are locked in. Troy Coughlin with 2 wins in a row. He's likely, after this coming weekend at Brainerd, he'll be locked in along with Dallas Glenn, Mason McGahey, Camry Caruso. So 2 women will make it out of the Pro Stock class, Matt Hartford and Bo Butner. Hartford is only 50 points ahead of Derek Kramer, who's in 12th. Christian Quadra is in 13th. Chris McGahey is in 14th. I have to go and look at those. I'll go and look at that here in just a moment. The top 8 in Pro Stock Motorcycle points are locked in now. Joey Gladstone, after 2 races, consecutive wins on a Reed Motorsports Suzuki, has become the points leader. 64 points out of Angel Sampay, 96 points out of Eddie Krawick, who's in 3rd. Steve Johnson in 4th. So Suzuki's are in the top 4. Matt Smith, who's alternates between a Buell and a Suzuki, is in 5th. His wife, Angie Smith, has been on the Buell the whole year. Jerry Savoy and Karen Stouffer, teammates on Suzuki's, are 7th and 8th. Right now, Mark Ingwerson is in 9th, whoever that is. Then Ryan Ayler, who is 7 points out of Jimmy Underdahl. Chris Bostick. And then you have the likes of Kelly Klontz and Gianna Salinas, who's trying to make it in to the playoff field there in Pro Stock Motorcycle. Points, yeah, so all points, Camping Road Drive, so yeah, all winners. So contestants is your Gainesville starting in Gainesville, concluding in Indianapolis, based on total points earned at every national event. Performance bonus points are earned after every session. All except Indianapolis. In the regular season, racers in the top 4 classes earn points. Racers earn enough points to secure within the top 10 after U.S. Nationals. Events with 3 scheduled qualifying sessions. Competitors must do 2 sessions with 4 scheduled. Now they've gone to 3, so you have to run 2 sessions if unable to complete. So the racers who have secured their So as long as you show up to every race and you run 2 qualifying sessions in each event, you're gonna make the playoff. So that's something that we will see by Indianapolis, after Indianapolis, how that works out. And we'll get more into that. We'll get more detail into that for sure after Brainerd, because that's the next race that they're going to be running this coming weekend. Knoxville Nationals ran $175,000 to the winner, and the winner was Donnie Schatz. Gets that victory over David Gravel. Logan Schuchart finishes 3rd. Tyler Courtney Sunshine finishes 4th. Jacob Allen 5th. So the Shark Racing team 3rd and 5th. They had great qualifying speed. Schuchart had to battle. Jacob Allen won one of the preliminary nights. Kyle Larson, the defending race winner, finished 6th after starting 6th. Brent Marks, who's had a great run here recently, winning at Eldora, winning some big money races, finished 7th. Sheldon Haudenschild finished 8th. 2-time defending World of Outlaws champion Brad Sweet finished 9th. Darren Pittman, running a limited schedule, finished 10th. Buddy Kofoid finished 11th and won Rookie of the Year. Justin Peck finished 12th. Rico Abreu won the last chance race on Friday night and got into the main event. On Saturday, finished 13th after starting 21st. Aaron Reitzel in the Toyota powered number 8 finished 14th. Kerry Madsen, Austin McCarl started on pole for the Knoxville Nationals, only finished 16th. He had a cut tire. Carson Macedo, former winner of this race, and Jason Johnson Racing, they finished 17th. Tasker Phillips, James McFadden, Brian Brown, great Knoxville driver, Justin Sanders, Gio Selzy, J.J. Hinkle, and Parker Price Miller, who suffered a massive wreck in the main event and is in a neck brace, but it looks like he's going to be okay. So prayers to him. Hopefully everything will be all right for him in that spot. But Donnie Schatz going and getting that victory, huge victory for him, and huge victory for the Tony Stewart Racing team to go and get that for Ford Performance. They haven't won a lot. It's kind of like Kyle Busch. Donnie Schatz has been on a downswing, a dry spell of sorts. So to go and get that victory, get a big money victory, and be one win away from the great Steve Kinzer for the most Knoxville Nationals victories is huge. Abreu, Hard Knocks winner, along with Madsen, Haudenschild, and Brian Brown. So the points right now, Brad Sweet is trying to go for 3-year wins, championships in a row. He's 68 points ahead of David Gravel, 114 ahead of Carson Macedo, 150 over Sheldon Haudenschild, and Donnie Schatz is in 5th, 184 points behind. The consistency of Brad Sweet is what does it. He's got more top 5s than everyone, and he's tied with David Gravel on top 10s, 68 points. So, that's crazy. So there are 7 drivers right now so far this year that have run every race. Schuchart and James McFadden have run every race or made every main event. Jacob Allen's missed 1 main event, and Spencer Baston 2, Brock Zierfoss 3. So those are the top 10 in the point standings. The only one of the people in the top 10 that hasn't won a race this year is McFadden as of now. We'll see what happens with that. But plenty of racing to go in the World of Outlaws season to see if, Brad Sweet, who beat David Gravel last year by... So it's the same people, Logan Schuchart there and Sheldon Hansfield. So it's interesting. And McFadden last year was driving for Casey Kane. Sweet beat Schuchart by 46 points and Donnie Schatz by 70. So, yeah. So Brad Sweet... so he's going for 4 championships in a row. Jesus. I thought it was 3. He beat Donnie Schatz by 4 points in 2019. When was the last time? Oh, there you go. All right. So last time that Brad Sweet lost the championship was 2018. So 4 champions. He's trying to go for 4 in a row. He's turning into Jimmy Johnson. That's lovely. So there is that. We will probably talk about that a little more later in the year, getting into Charlotte, the whatever World Finals and that whole bit there. MotoGP and Moto2 will be back at Austria this coming weekend. Fabio Quartararo is 22 points ahead of Aleix Espargaro. Pecco Bagnaia is third. Trying to see. Yeah, there you go. Pecco Bagnaia is third and is coming off of 2 consecutive victories. 3 out of the last 5, 4 out of the last, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 out of the last 7, but then if he doesn't win, he crashes. So that's not great. Espargaro has not won. He's finished no better than Espargaro won one race earlier in the year, but otherwise has finished no better than third in any other race. But he's gotten points in every race. That's why he's still in this. Quartararo crashed in Assen. That's his only non-point score. Those are the top 3. Bastianini, who has won 3 races this year. Zarco, who has had his moments, qualified well, finishes on the podium a lot, seemingly top 5 when he does finish. And then Jack Miller is your top 6. Brad Binder, Alex Rins, Maverick Vinales, and Miguel Oliveira tied with Jorge Martin. Joan Mir, your top 12. So we'll see what happens with that. In the team's championship, Aprilia is up by 2 points over Ducati. Yamaha is third, Pramac 4th, and Red Bull, KTM 5th, Suzuki 6th. Constructors, Ducati is well ahead. They're nearly 100 points ahead of Yamaha and Aprilia. So Ducati's going to win Constructors, but then they have more bikes than anybody. That's just how it should work. Moto2 going into this coming weekend. The American riders, Cameron Beaubier's had a rough spell here recently. And, of course, it was a running year for Sean Dillon Kelly as well. The points battle has actually become interesting now. Augusto Fernandez is leading, but he's only 13 points ahead of Ayagura, who might be going to MotoGP, but we don't know. Celestino Vietti, who had a great start to the year, has been off a little bit. He's only, 15 points behind Fernandez. So that's the battle. Those 3 guys are battling for that championship, and those are really the people that we have to look at. Joe Roberts is 6th, 2 points behind Tony Arbolino for a top 5 spot. Needs to get another victory. Consistency hasn't really been there. Been finishing in the back end of the top 10. Only has 2 podiums so far this year. So we'll see what happens with him. Beaubier has had 6 points finishes so far this year. Trying to get more points here as the season goes on. He's only 32 points out of the top 10. If he can put some point scores together, that could possibly get him into that spot. I mean, there's a guy, Alonso Lopez, who first 7 rounds didn't get any points, and he's had a good run recently, and he's ahead of him. So something to see as we get into the second part of the season there. Sandown for the V8 Supercars this coming weekend. There's trying to get the standings there. Shane Van Gisbergen, 121, and 65. So it's 165 and then 186 is the points gap between Shane Van Gisbergen and Anton De Pasquale. Will Davison, so 240 points back in third. Fords are second, third, and fourth. Chaz Mostert driving for and Watkins Andretti United. That'll be a Ford next year. Cam Waters is fourth. Brock Feeney's driving the other 888 Red Bull car in sixth. He is a rookie, so good job by him to be a rookie running sixth in points. Reynolds, Heimgartner, Courtney, Tim Slade rounding out your top 10. The Dick Johnson Racing Team, new Band-Aid has new ownership coming in. An owner from Australia who has a lot of interest in sports teams. Brett Ralph, who owns Jet Couriers and owns the Melbourne Aces Baseball Club, Rugby League's Melbourne Storm, Netball team, whatever that is, Sunshine Coast Lightning Basketball, Melbourne United. And so they're going to be the majority owners of what is now Dick Johnson Racing and they'll, Dick Johnson and Ryan Story, the two main players on that team, will remain in their positions. They're showing the number 51 Boost Mobile wildcard entry that Greg Murphy, who used to be the king of the mountain in the qualifying, will be sharing with Richie Stanaway, the former sports car driver. It'll be a Holden. Of course, they don't show it as a Holden anymore because Holden doesn't exist. An interesting scheme, cool scheme for them. Boost Mobile, Erebus Racing, a third car, fourth wild card. So one of at least three wild cards. 888 will field one for, of course, Craig Lowndes, the great Craig Lowndes, 7-time winner of the great race, and Declan Frazier, Matt Chata, Jalen Robotham for Matt Chata's own team. Fourth car, Frandison Motorsports might also show up this week after plans for to discover border restraints. So that'll be good, cool to see. But the wild cards, of course, have a hard time competing against those regulars. Australia Grand Prix March 30th to April 2nd. Okay, third round of Formula 1 World Championship. At the float in the first 3 rounds of each of the power races. Only 5 season openers between now and 2035. 24 and 25. Oh, okay. They're being at Melbourne, Oscar Piastri. All right. So that's interesting. And then the Texas Motor Speedway. Yeah. Josh, I'll throw to you. I mean, I'm outspoken in my hatred of Texas Motor Speedway. It's been posted here. It's been posted when I used to be on NASCAST or any format, whatever, talking in circles, whatever. But Crash Gladys made a post. Her and her husband, Kenny Sargent. They do the Speed Freaks show that's been around for many years. Supposedly Texas is going to be reconfigured since they've to be fair, how can you ruin a turd? But they've made it so that Indy cars can't run there. The NASCAR vehicles basically can't run there either. It's been a shithole for decades, but what are your thoughts, or what do you think is going to happen? Since iRacing seems to be the place they go to, and you are the sim racing guy, what do you think they're trying to do here in this spot? Are they going to go and make a Charlotte clone? Are they going to make the old Atlanta? Maybe that would be the idea. Maybe they go and make the old Atlanta with the long sweeping corners and make it an oval. That would be a way to go and make Texas more palatable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of plays that could come into here that could happen. No, I think they're going to double down on the new Atlanta concept and go with that. It's going to be, another. I bet you they're going to say like, yeah, we think we should have a new Atlanta, just like we have Atlanta now. That's now a super speedway. Well, they're going to turn Texas into a mile and a half super speedway. Probably they're probably something like that. So that's what I'm thinking. Of course, could be wrong, but they, like you said, they've made so many changes to it. And actually, I guess what I'm seeing on Reddit is people possibly thinking that Texas reconfiguring could possibly actually leave IndyCar, or IndyCar might be left out of it entirely. And I saw one comment on there saying that yeah, they're gonna make it suitable for IndyCar racing finally again, unlike what's been there since 2017, and then IndyCar is not going to be there anymore. Which would be interesting that it would play out like that. But we'll see what happens. But we'll have to see if especially with repaves don't really race that well initially. Some do, but some others is hit or miss. So we'll see what they have, what type of reconfiguration they do. But it probably will still be the same shitty old Texas Motor Speedway that it's always been.
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna reconfigure and make it Atlanta, then Indy cars are not gonna race there because it would be like Las Vegas 2008 and or 2011 or whatever year it was. There's 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2000. Yeah, it was 2000.
Yeah, 2008. And I mean, they've already tried, because remember 2001 kart or IndyCar tried Atlanta,
Yeah,
and they had a massive accident there, which was pretty fiery.
IRL, yeah, IRL was there, and then kart tried Texas, and guys were passing out, and they had to cancel the race. So there's a precedent set in regards to those, and then of course late Dan Weldon's unfortunate passing at Las Vegas in 2011. So the notion that Texas would go and reconfigure towards what Atlanta has versus maybe making something that doesn't exist right now. I think I personally. The only way that they would ever get me to like that place is if they made a clone of the old Atlanta Motor Speedway. If they made it that way and you put let's just say you put progressive banking, but you already have if you put progressive banking, you go and work on, because they've obviously got issues with drainage and weepers and all that in the turns. You reconfigure the turns, put the banking up, but you put progressive banking like how Homestead has. So you run that high line, make it, like only like a degree, maybe, really you got like 20 degrees, 19, 18, 17, whatever, make it that way. There might be something to something there. And that would be good for Indy cars. You wouldn't have to put grip strip, traction compound, PJ1, spray, whatever the hell you want to call it. Goo, gear, grip, whatever the hell whatever name you want to have for it. That would be, I would assume it would be palatable for IndyCar, would make it worthwhile. But we will see. It's Texas Motor Speedway. I mean, they're also saying California Auto Club Speedway was going to become a short track. We haven't heard a peep about that in a long time.
Well, I saw something on that recently. They are tearing down grandstands at Auto Club now, which leads to the theory that they will turn that into a short track. If they're tearing down as it has long grandstands from the end of turn 4 to the start of turn 1. Well, if they shorten that up, that probably means that they're still going forward with the plan to turn that into a short track, especially if the length of the grandstands is going to match the length of the short track front straightaway.
Well, hopefully that'll be something. It'll be essentially like having Richmond or Iowa at that point, which those tracks in the Gen 4 era were more suitable to good racing and multi-grooves. Ever since the Gen 4 era, that's kind of gone away. Trying to make those flatter tracks and make short tracks, you'll go and get separated, spread out, kind of like what we saw at the end of the race there on Sunday and on Saturday night. But we will see. IndyCar will be at Gateway this coming weekend. Points going into this weekend's race at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Gateway sees Will Power up by 6 points on Scott Dixon, who just passed Mario Andretti for second all-time in IndyCar wins. Indy 500 winner champion Marcus Ericsson is third. He's 12 points behind Will Power. Joseph Newgarden, who's won the most races so far in 2022, is 32 points behind, or what is it? 22 points behind his teammate Will Power. Alex Palou is in fifth, trying to defend his championship. We don't know where he's going to be, so that's an interesting dichotomy and all that. Palou is 33 points behind. Scott McLaughlin, who has 2 wins this year, is in sixth, 58 points behind, and then Pato O'Ward is seventh. He also has 2 wins this year, and he's 59 points behind. Those are the guys really that are still in this championship. Palou is the only driver amongst the top 8 that hasn't won a race this year. Top 7 of the guys that are still in the championship that hasn't won. Of course, Rossi has won a race. Colton Herta has also won a race. Rosenquist, 8 of the top 10 drivers have won. Rosenquist, the other guy who hasn't won, but he's had 2 poles this year. Palou has had 5 podium finishes, but no wins. So, I mean, you go and look at Gateway and the results over time there. I mean, for the ovals, you think about recent IndyCar memory. Joseph Newgarden has been, outstanding on any ovals, but really the short ovals. Just to go and get into that, I mean, he's won the last 2 races at Gateway, and he's won 3 times overall. Scott Dixon, Takuma Sato, Will Power, and Elio Castro Neves, going all the way back to 2003, all have won there as well. None of the other guys, I mean, Juan Pablo Montoya isn't going to be running. So those are all the winners. So you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different guys that have won at this racetrack. You think about short ovals, Pato O'Ward, somebody who's done really well there. Rossi's had his moments on ovals. After that, I mean, Colton Herta's been close a few times, but then that's essentially what it always seems to be. Colton Herta's close, and then he doesn't close the deal. But I guess, Josh, you let us know what you're looking at for this weekend at Gateway, Saturday evening at Gateway Worldwide Technology Raceway, and who do you think is going to win, and who do you think is a wild card for this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think this weekend, like you said, I think Joseph Newgarden's probably a guy to watch here. He's won in the past. He won in 2017, and then won the last 2 points races here at Gateway. I think he's a guy that you want to watch here. I think another guy, Scott Dixon, he also won back in 2020, and of course, last year he had a involvement in the late incident during the race with his teammate. So that was an interesting turn of events that kind of shook up the championship. But he could be good at this racetrack. Later in the year. Pato O'Ward was another guy that ran well last year and can run well on ovals. So think he might be up there too. Think you can't discount Will Power. Also, he was on pole last year and led a lap. So I think those guys will be up in the race. Takuma Sato has also ran well at this track in the past, second place in 2020. So a lot of things that could happen. I think Colton Herta was also really good at this race last year, but then had an issue with the drive shaft. So he could be up there if Andretti gives him a good piece, but Andretti's been all over the place this year with their performance. Could see Alexander Rossi up there as well, but again, Andretti's Andretti. Think it's going to be an interesting race. Think I was reading on Racer.com earlier. They're trying to put in the high line. Try to make it multi-groove racing.
Practice.
Yeah, they're gonna run a practice running the high line. I think turns 3 and 4 I think will probably be natural to run the high line, especially when you're defending. But I think turn 1 and 2 you're probably gonna run the middle mostly. But I do think you could also try to get a run off the high line too. Passing on the bottom is going to be really tough because that corner is a lot tighter, and it's a lot harder to get the drive off on the bottom than it is in the middle. Definitely learned that from iRacing in the past. Whether it was in NASCAR or in the IndyCar, you have to really have a good entry to be able to make a good exit on the bottom there, and really to make time, you need to be able to nail the entry and aim for about the middle of the corner on apex to get a good drive off the corner and keep up the momentum. But I think for this race, I'm gonna pick Joseph Newgarden to win. He of course got into fans bad graces last week or a couple weeks ago at Nashville, and getting a win this week, maybe people will like him again. Or, well, I'm sure he already did apologize to fans online for his comments, but certainly win makes everybody feel good. So I think he can win this race and put his stake into the championship. Of course, Will Power, Scott Dixon are already close together, and Joseph Newgarden's kind of right behind them in that title fight there. So pick Joseph Newgarden. Then wild card, I'm gonna go with number 48, Jimmy Johnson. Of course, at Iowa Speedway, they ran pretty well. Jimmy, had a good run, led laps in the first race, and then finished in 5th in the second race. So I think Jimmy can continue to improve in his oval track efforts. I think he's going to run really well. This is a I was going to say this is a 500-mile race, but it's really only 325 miles. So I think it's a 500K race here. So I think Jimmy Johnson can definitely run up there with the top guys in the IndyCar series on the ovals. So expect him to try to run up there. I think some of the other guys like Roman Grosjean was impressive with Dale Coyne's car last year. Maybe, if Andretti gives him a good piece, he can run up there as well. So, I'll go with Joseph and then Jimmy as my pick in my wild card there.
You're consistent. You pick Jimmy, I think, every week. Almost every week, it seems like.
I mean, it's a bias like you and Chase Briscoe.
Yeah. I mean, no. The point is, you are a Dale Jr. fan. You're a fan of. I guess that's the thing. You're a Jimmy fan in IndyCar. So I give you. That's got to be really hurtful because he fucking sucks on road courses.
Well, it's more of a I want to see him do well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of him, but it's not like it's not disappointing. Like, oh, like this sucks because he's garbage at road course racing for the most part. It's I think any good result is positive for Jimmy. So
yeah, I mean,
we saw him if he was able to run well at Indianapolis at the road course, I think he did a couple weeks ago. That was good. Or I think he had a good run going at Nashville last week too, and that was
before he wrecked. Yeah,
before he wrecked. So it's not like I'm going to be massively disappointed if he doesn't do well. I'm interested into the challenge of transforming from a stock car racer and going from that to your full-time job being an IndyCar racer, two completely different disciplines of motorsport.
At 46 years old, after you've driven for over 30 years, and you've driven all these different types of vehicles, it's part of why I've become a Jimmy Johnson supporter. I mean, it's been brutal for him, and it sounds like he's going to be back. Sponsorship seems to be the only thing that we don't know about for sure. The 10 car, we don't know what's going on with that or who's going to be in that car. We, of course, know who's going to be in the 9 car and the 8 car. Jimmy, I think, has a job as long as he wants to at Ganassi. He's starting to kind of look at, I want to do some sports car racing, because now he's trying to hedge in regards to the new GTP, LMDH, and LM hypercar situation, and Garage 56 with Hendrick Motorsports next year, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see what happens with what Jimmy Johnson's going to do. I mean, he's going to drive for as long as he wants to because he's that good. For me, looking at Gateway, I mean, Newgarden was the easy pick. Honestly, no offense, Josh, but that's the straightforward one. 3 wins. All of those were top 5s and 5 top 10s. Average finish of 4.8 and 6 starts there. Takuma Sato is just behind him, 7.7 average finish with 1 win, 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s. But I'm not going there. I can't do it. It's freaking Takuma Sato. At that point, I might as well just go and really gamble. That's essentially what you're doing when you pick Takuma Sato. I'm going to pick Pato O'Ward. He's, and I guess that's the bias in me too. That's my IndyCar driver, but he has 3 top 5s in 3 races there and an average of 2.3. So he needs a win, same way as Joseph Newgarden needs a win. Pato needs a win in this spot with 2 races to go to put himself back into this points standings. He's 59 points out. I mean, Newgarden's only 22 points out. If he can go and get his 5th win of the year, he'd be right in the mix. But Pato needs his 3rd win of the year. He loves the short ovals. My wild card is David Malukas, the guy that I picked for Rookie of the Year. Him and right now Christian Lundgaard. Lundgaard right now is leading the rookie points. He's 30, 40, 41 points ahead of David Malukas. Lundgaard does have a podium. Malukas has led more laps. Lundgaard has a better average finish by 2 positions, essentially. Malukas and him have been really good for a good part of the year. There's been moments for both of them that haven't looked so good. Malukas won both races last year in the Indy Lights at Worldwide Technology Raceway Gateway. So that's my thinking in regards to that. He's been running well. It's essentially the closest thing to a home game that he will have outside of Indianapolis. So, and using Takuma Sato as that fact that he has Takuma Sato as his teammate, that's a big piece there. He won, he won both races in Indy Lights there last year. So that's my wild card. He's been close. He's running the Fast 6 on some of these road courses. It would be interesting to see if David Malukas could come through there. So my picks this weekend are Pato O'Ward. I'll type them in here. So Phil picks. Okay, thanks. I'll pick Pato O'Ward and David Malukas going into this weekend's race at Gateway. It'll be on Saturday evening. The Cup Series or Xfinity Series we'll start with the Xfinity Series first for Watkins Glen. They've been off for a week or so. 42 cars for 38 spots. It's going to be that's going to be asking a lot to qualify. 42 for 38 with some of the people that are showing up for this deal. Just to go through the initial entry list, I mean, Jesse Iwuji, he's not going to make it. Blaine Perkins, he's taken over for that maggot moron, so whatever. He'll make it in. Bailey Curry in the 4. Brandon Brown's driving the 5 for BJ McLeod. Spencer Pumpally taking over for Ryan Vargas this weekend in the number 6 for JD Motorsports. Cole Custer taking the spot of Joe Graff Jr. It is Joe Graff's. Yeah. Going through William Byron in the 17 for Hendrick, Sammy Smith in the 18, Connor Mozak the Trans Am, the TA2 driver, driving for Sam Hunt. Austin Wayne Self, another moron, driving the second Jordan Anderson car with his family sponsorship. I mentioned Awuji. I would assume they'll make that driver change if they really want to make the show. Patrick Emmerling for Emmerling Gase in the 35. Patrick Gallagher in the number 38 RSS Ford with Steve Addington as his crew chief. Stephen Parsons driving the 44 for Alpha Prime, and Josh Balicki in the 45 with Frankie Kerr as his crew chief. Didn't know he was over there. Stanton Barrett coming out of nowhere to drive the 47 for Mike Harmon, so that's something. Kaz Gralla in the Big Machine 48. Marco's gonna be driving later this year at the Roval. What did Junior call the Roval there? Josh, he called it the Frankenstein of road courses. Yeah. So
did he say that? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think he called it the Frankenstein or of road courses there last week, or something like that. Yeah,
it may as well be. Yeah,
he posted it it's on the YouTube page, on his YouTube thing. So Yaley in the 66, Chris Wright gonna be a caution driving the 68. Kyle Larson driving a Junior Motorsports number 88. So I'll just pick him now. I'm picking him to win. Preston Pardis in the 91, Andy Lally in the 08, Timmy Hill in the 13, probably to fail to qualify, Scott Heckard in the 78, probably fail to qualify, and Ross Chastain will drive the 92 for DGM with Protect Your Melon. Interesting. That's a double entendre there in regards to Ross Chastain. Yeah, I picked Kyle Larson to win. My wild card for this race, I'll take a regular in that sense, and I'll take Sheldon Creed. So Larson to win, Sheldon Creed as a wild card. He needs a win. He needs to gain some points to try and make this playoff. It's pretty, farcical at the bottom of this playoff, to be honest. There should be only 10 drivers in the Xfinity. I've always said it, 8, 10, and 12 would be the best setup, which would mean, like in my case, being a Briscoe fan in Cup, it wouldn't matter because he wouldn't have a chance, really. But, that's what it is. It should actually matter to make the playoffs. I mean, they've made it so where they're expanding playoffs, so that's NASCAR was ahead of that, so they'll be all happy about it. But for this weekend, for this Xfinity race, which is only 8 laps shorter than the Cup race, Larson wins this. I think Hendrick and Junior Motorsports will have a lot of domination going on because they essentially have, you count their 4 cars, they have 5 cars going on here this weekend. There's really no way that they don't win this race. 2 Cup guys, and then there are 6, 2 Cup guys, and then with the Hendrick car, and then they have Kyle Larson, the defending series champion, who won the Cup race last year at Watkins Glen, no less. So those are my picks. What are you thinking, Josh, in regards to the Xfinity Series?
Well, you took exactly who I was going to pick for winner and the wild card. Because when you were saying wild card, I was looking at entry lists, and I was like, Sheldon Creed looks like he might be a good pick here, and you took him right in my hand with Robbie Gordon Jr.
The fact is, once in a while, I have the telepathy has to work since you're the soothsayer. You always seem to make those picks and make them work. So
yeah, that's true.
I have to hit 1 out of 100. So maybe I'll hit 1 out of 100.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, it's going to be interesting because William Byron is also entered in this race, and they both have the same sponsor. And I'm going to assume that they both have the same car design as well. So it's going to be the same car design that Kyle Larson uses on the Cup side for his paint scheme there. But I don't know. I'm going to go with the other guy that we expect to do well at road courses. Pick AJ Allmendinger to get another road course victory and add to his tally of the record in road course racing at the Xfinity Series. And I guess I'm gonna go with another regular here, and I'll go with Josh Berry as my wild card because we don't really think of him as a road course racer, and like you picked him a couple of weeks ago at Indianapolis, and so I'll pick him here as a wild card here at Watkins Glen. But we've got again like at Indianapolis, we got a lot of Cup guys in the field in this event, and should make things interesting. So there's definitely going to be a chance for a little bit of fun in this race, a little bit of action, and especially with the Cup guys and a lot of in the lower level or the lower tiered entries, some road course ringers there too. So looking forward to watching the Xfinity race on Saturday. It's always a good one at Watkins Glen.
It's been is it still the Xfinity series at the Glen? Yeah, so it's Zip.
Used to be
it used to be the Zippo 200. I was going to say the Zippo 200. But it isn't this year, so they don't have a presenting sponsor, unfortunately. Go Bowling at the Glen. Eric Almirola will be running the Go Bowling car. He's done some good bits with Jason Belmonte at Charlotte Motor Speedway. He's gonna do stuff with Kyle Troop. I'm trying to go and figure out I applied to try and be able to bowl with Kyle Troop and Eric Almirola. Hopefully, luck somehow or another, luck can actually go my way once in a while. I get to go and bowl with a freaking PBA Tour beast who is one of the coolest guys on tour. And Eric Almirola, who it seems like is going to be back next year in the Cup Series. Would have made it easier for Kyle Busch to come over there if Smithfield wanted to sponsor him. But yeah, 39 cars for this weekend's race at Watkins Glen, the Go Bowling at the Glen. The drivers that are the non-regulars, Joey Hand will be in the 15 car for Rick Ware and Ford. AJ Allmendinger in the 16 car. Josh, of course, picking him, who's the all-time winner in the Xfinity Series for road course races. Danny Kvyat, as I mentioned earlier. Lawrence Ezemans, his teammate in the 27. Mike Rockenfeller, the sports car race driving for Spire. Kyle Tilley, taking his usual role, driving the 78 Go Fast, Not Fast car, and then Kimi Räikkönen in the 91 car. Sugarlands will be sponsoring Richard, along with Ballpark Buns and Rolls. Interesting color scheme there. I mean, of course, Ricky Stenhouse sucks on road courses, but that's an interesting paint scheme there. Sugarlands, I think that's where I was trying to, because the Sugarlands launched High Rock with Junior and his wife Amy. I was trying to get that. I don't know if I was asking you or I forget who it was.
Yeah, we were
trying
talking about
that moonshine, whatever, that cream, the whatever drinking cream. I need to find that. I want to have that, honestly. I really want to try that. But before I digress on to drinking, since I have an issue with that, this field, I mean, I guess before we get into picks, I mean, you were able to go and make this, so you'll have the first picks here. It's a good, I mean, to have nearly a full field is nice, number one, but some of the drivers we have in this field are really, really good. I mean, you're talking about Formula One world champion, championship driver, and Mike Rockenfeller, championship driver Joey Hand, who has done really well in his limited drives. Of course, driving a Rick Ware piece of shit, no less. AJ Allmendinger, I mean, he was about to die at Indianapolis, was on the front row in the last restart, possibly to try to win 2 in a row there. Those are all big-time guys here in this spot. It kind of goes back to the old road course ringer thing, but road course ringers would always be in bad cars. I mean, to be fair, 2 out of the 4 are in bad cars, but the way things are in this spot, maybe they're not. You add the notion of the Blaney Truex battle for the points for that last spot. You add Chris Buescher, who's been really good recently. Bubba, we don't know if Kurt Busch is going to be there or not. So Bubba needs to do something. Can he actually run well on a road course for the first time ever? Eric Almirola trying to, on a sponsor's race, go and come through, at a place where Tony's won 5 times in his career. There's so many storylines going on here, Josh. Brad came out of hibernation. He has no playoff points. He's got minus playoff points. He's with Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell's another one who's a road course driver before he came to NASCAR. I don't know how many weeks his crew chief Blake Harris has been suspended, if he's going to get him back this week or not. But the fact that he gets a bang Caitlin Vincey, I don't think he's losing anyway. But they might be another player. I mean, there's a lot of players in this spot. We're talking about this race and in Daytona. It's the most intriguing cutoff situation we've had in a while, to be fair. So a lot to think about. But who are you looking at to win? Do you think Clyde goes and does what he usually does, which is win on road courses, or Tyler Reddick, who seems to be really good at? Is it going to be a Chevy weekend or somebody else should we look at, and then somebody that we could look at as a wild card?
Yeah, I think this weekend's gonna be interesting because there's a lot of good players who can run well at road courses on the regular. Like Chase Elliott's been established as the road course king. He's many king titles. He's the concrete king, the road course king, and many things. But he's good at road courses. You've got Tyler Reddick, who's come on recently as being good at road course racing. Ross Chastain's actually pretty good or solid, of course. First win at COTA earlier this year. Kyle Larson, of course, won this race last year and has generally run well on road courses during his career. You got a lot of guys. So there's going to be a lot of things that can happen here this weekend. But I'm going to go with Chris Buescher here. I'm going to pick Chris Buescher to win at Watkins Glen. I think get the first win for Brad Keselowski as an owner here. I think strong possibility that could happen. He's finished 10th at Indianapolis, 6th at Road America, 2nd at Sonoma, at COTA. Well, COTA's the only race he finished bad at, finished 21st there, but otherwise has run well on the road courses the entire season for Chris Buescher. So I'm gonna go with him as the winner, and then I think a wild card. I want to go with one of the ringers here, and I'm going to go with Mike Rockenfeller as a wild card. I think he's had a lot of experience at Watkins Glen in IMSA. Ran 6 hours of the Glen recently, and I think he can be a guy you have to watch out for. Not a top 10 or anything like that, but I think a guy like him can solidly put that car in the top 20 or around there for sure. So I think Michael Rockefeller is a solid racer in IMSA and in sports car racing. Has won at Le Mans before and has done really well internationally. So I think he can come here to America and and make his debut in NASCAR and do really well. And I think it's gonna be interesting with all these different drivers running this event at Watkins Glen. I think it's gonna make it very interesting to watch.
Yeah, Rocky is coming off. There's people like what's that asshole? What's that loser that's on Door Bumper Clear that blocks everybody? Brett Griffin was questioning his validity to be in this race. Excuse me. He's a DTM champion back in 2013. He's won Le Mans in 2010, as Josh mentioned. Won championships NFI GT, won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, won GT2 in Le Mans 2005, Spa 24 Hours in 2005, won overall in the 24 Hours of Daytona for, I assume that's Action Express. I think he won for Action Express that year. So I think he's qualified. That would be something if Spire actually put a decent car out there. I mean, the fact that they put a car that was functional to actually perform for Corey LaJoie at Atlanta was a miracle. I posted, you put Buescher and you put Mike Rockenfeller, so you gave me Clyde. So I mean, you gave me the easy choice. I go with Clyde. Yeah, it's a safe thing, but I'm not going to do it. I mean, Buescher is in the last 10 road course races, based on Racing Reference. I'm just looking at it. His average finish is fourth best amongst all drivers that are active. I'm going to pick Tyler Reddick. He had a horrible weekend last weekend. He needs to have a bounce back, go and get a victory in this spot. I see Tyler Reddick as somebody that can go out there and do something. Go and get that. If he can get a victory, get a third win this year, and kind of go and change things up a little bit. To be honest, in regards to the points, if he can go and get that third win, it would be a big deal for him. Of course, Road America was a big win for him. And getting into the results, the results that I'm trying to get through on that. Yeah, quicker Pocono, Variety. Yeah, you won road. Yeah, you won Indy. It wasn't as clear cut there, but he had the best car at Indy. He had the best car, or one of the best cars at Road America. So 3 in a row for Tyler Reddick is my call. To solidify himself into this playoff hunt. My pick for the wild card for this race, I mean, it's not much of a reach, to be fair, based on what their talent is or what their talent level is. I'm gonna go with Gumby. Two Brad Keselowski guys. It all goes back to it seems to always go back to my fandom. So I picked Tyler Reddick to win, and Gumby as a wild card. If he goes and wins at Watkins Glen, it wouldn't be a shock. He's a road course ace. Penske knows how to win. Penske has been in a spot to win there at Watkins Glen many times over the years. It's 10 years since the historic last lap, which saw Brad turn.
Oh yeah, that was probably one of the best endings ever to a race, period, across anything.
When Bobby Labonte blew an engine and NASCAR was like, oh, it doesn't matter. He's laying oil down. He blew the bottom end of that piece of shit that he was driving, laid oil down all over the entire track. And then they ran into turn one. They're driving sideways. Kyle Busch got loose, and then Brad turned him in the S's. And then him and Marcus Ambrose are going sideways.
Yeah, just start tracking it on a road course.
Oh, and I mean, I was a Marcus Ambrose fan from the V8 Supercars back in the day. So I'm like, man, I want Brad to win, but it would be the first win for Marcus Ambrose. I'm like, oh crap. It's like, and Alan Bestwick did such a great job of that call. You watched that last lap. Nobody knew. I mean, I don't know how nobody knew that, but then it's NASCAR and how they go and it's also the way that they broadcast races, how they didn't know that somebody was laying oil down. But that was a great finish. Brad didn't win that race, but he won the championship. So in the end, it is what it is. Still hasn't. Brad's never won a road course race, so that's something. Maybe he can go out there and win one on Sunday, but it won't count. If he does, that would be something. Mark Martin, of course, won 3 straight races at Watkins Glen from 93 through 95 in the 6 car. They screwed Wally Dallenbach over, driving for Bill Davis in the 22 car with a phantom caution to help Mark Martin win that race in 95. 93, that was the first win. 94 was the last race. He beat Ernie Irvin in the 28 car for that victory. That was the last race that Ernie ran before his untimely accident there. So at MIS, so that was 3 wins there. So maybe Brad goes and pulls one out of the ass, or else one of the guys that used to drive for him at BKR will go and do it. Yeah, football. Let's talk football, man. Fall Brawl coming up this weekend. The draft Sunday night. We'll have a pregame and draft show on Zoom since we aren't all able to go and do a live draft together. I figure if there was a live draft with all of us, it'd be funny. It'd be hilarious. I'd drink a lot, and I'd get loud, and I'd get rowdy, and there'd be a couple other people I would. And then there'd be a lot of people that would be hunkered down in a corner, like Wilson, Vic, Josh, most everybody else. I'd be the entertainment for everybody, but then I would try to be the entertainment, but then I would also switch into wanting to win mode. So it would probably be really boring because the whole like Asian aspect to it, we're all analytical. We want to go and win this thing. There's a lot of us Asians in this league. And then the fact that I live in Edison and one of my best friends, Joe, is a white guy, little Polak dude, but he grew up with all of us. He's analytical and he's an accountant. So the draft lineup for this year, Professor J gets the number 1 pick again. I have an inkling of who he's going to pick. I have a very strong suspicion of who he's going to pick, but I'm not going to bring it up here. Well, maybe I could. Who cares? None of the rest of the people other than you, Josh, is going to hear this, and it doesn't matter when you're drafting at 8. I'll just say it. Josh, he's going to pick Josh Allen.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. As soon as I have an inkling, and I remember this guy's a Bills guy. And, yeah.
Well, he wanted. Let's be clear here, Professor J. I've got your 5 Stars podcast. He talks about indie wrestling. He's a wrestling guru. He's a football guy. He knows he's passionate about his things. He's happier than he's ever been based on his Instagram account. But he's also loving his wrestling and he's loving his football because he's got the best team in the NFL. And he's got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And he was going to draft Josh Allen last year at number 1 overall, which would have looked even crazier than what it would look like right now. But he was going to draft Josh Allen number 1 overall, and he didn't. He went chalk, and it went to hell because Christian McCaffrey got hurt. So, whatever. Number 1 pick is going to be more than likely Josh Allen, which will be against the grain for fantasy football, but whatever. Professor J has been a competitor for many years in my league, and he's been competitive for more years than not. He's had a dry spell recently, same way as I've had a dry spell in winning. So there is that. Josh is going to be picking 8th after a third place finish in the league there. He'll be behind Wilson and Vic, 2 of my besties, who between those 2 assholes, they've stolen I don't know how many championships from me. I'd be 7-time. Between those 2, I'd be at least 7-time. I might be 8-time. I'd be ahead of Lewis on one thing in my life, but the fact of the matter is we're getting into it this week. Trey Lance for me went and got that touchdown at Danny Gray on a deep ball and looked good. Probably going to be he ain't going to do much more this preseason. We're going to keep him on ice till week 1. Trey area, Peter King's talking about him as the X factor, as the guy that nobody knows what he's going to do. He could be Patrick Mahomes. He could be who knows what the hell he's going to do. I'm just happy that he's the quarterback of the 49ers. I have not had this much joy or happiness or eagerness to watch the Niners in a long time. You have that, Josh, with Trevor Lawrence. You have a coach that can get the most out of him. You have great players. You have Travis Etienne back, so you now have a running game. There's hope. So we actually have positivity going on here. For like Vic and Wilson, who are Jets fans, not so much, even though they have a bunch of great draft picks. Their quarterback's not is injured. But talk about what you got going on with the Jacksonville Jaguars, what you feeling for this league, drafting 8th this coming weekend. And then you said you're in another league. Talk about all that.
Yeah, well, the Jaguars on last Friday night, they play against the Browns. Of course, the highlight of that one wasn't even the fact that the Jaguars were playing. It's the fact that Deshaun Watson was playing, and the fans in section 124 were saying "you sick fuck" in the stands to Deshaun Watson, and that was pretty good content right there. I was laughing at that watching the game at home, seeing that on Twitter. But yeah, that was pretty funny. And then of course, the real action on the field, the Jaguars offense, I think, is pretty solid. Trevor Lawrence had a couple of misses, but overall he was pretty solid. Especially his last series, got a touchdown on 4th down. They went for it, and they did a play action fake to the right, and then Evan Ingram went back to the flat, and then they threw it to him, and he got a touchdown. So that was pretty good. Trevor Lawrence also had another good deep throw to Zay Jones, who apparently coaches are saying he might actually be the best receiver on the team. We'll see about that. We'll see what happens, but that might be interesting to watch. Travis Etienne, of course, looking. I mean, I never really seen him play too much in college, so I can't really say what he looked like in college. But he looked like a running back in the preseason so far. So he was able to find the hole and drive through it, attack it in running plays, and he's able to take the ball as a receiver and make moves downfield. So. Looking forward to seeing what he does this week against the Steelers, and then against regular season. I think he's probably going to have the most of the load probably going in the regular season. Of course, James Robinson's still recovering for his torn Achilles, but I think it's probably going to be like overall for the season, probably going to be a 50-50 split between J-Rob and ETN there. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I think defense going to be pretty solid. I'm going to say I think they probably end up being close, if not within a top 10 overall defense for the Jaguars. I think they've got a lot of solid pieces there. They've got a lot of guys that have been there for a while, like DeJuan Smoot, who's been a solid piece since 2017. They picked up Arden Key from the 49ers, who he did pretty well in his preseason action. First overall pick, Trevon Walker, again causing pressure up the middle or on the edge. I think he's going to be a player to watch. I don't know his name. I can't pronounce his name, but he's got Fat in his name. He's one of the defensive tackles for the Jaguars, signed from the Atlanta Falcons. But if you got Fat in your name and you're a defensive tackle, you're probably pretty damn good. So I think he's going to be pretty good for the Jags. Devin. They picked him linebacker in the first round. Jags 2022 draft. I'm gonna just Google that really quick. Devin Lloyd. Yeah, Devin Lloyd. I think is gonna be pretty good once he gets some time. Hamstring injury early in camp, but expect to be back for the regular season. And then of course Tyson Campbell, corner from Georgia last year, picked in the second round. People had some doubts about him in preseason, but so far, last preseason they had doubts about him being able to track the ball, but improved over the regular season last season, and now this year in training camp and preseason, he's been able to track the ball pretty good. So expect a lot of things out of this defense. They not going to think as Jacksonville 2017 good, the Saxonville defense, but I think there's a lot of potential here to watch as we go throughout the regular season. And then as far as our league goes, right now, I have no plan as of yet. I will probably just look at it Saturday night and come up with something of who I'm going to select for the draft on Sunday night. But probably the first round, probably go running back. Second round, receiver. Look for one of the mobile quarterbacks. It's probably the best bet to maximize your scoring potential. And then from there, it'll just be best pick available. And then, of course, whoever defensive players I can pick up at the end or whoever. So that'll be my plan there. My other league, my other league already had a draft. It auto drafted. And I don't really have as much stake in that because it was a free league. I did not pay any money, like this league that I will be paying money. So not really pay attention too much to that. But it'll just be more for, I guess, a little bit of bragging rights if things go right. I don't even know who my team is there. I have to re-download the app, so I'll have to tell you later who I have in that league. But I don't even know if anybody knew that a draft was happening in that league because it just last week it just got an email saying, "Oh yeah, your league draft is starting," and it went and auto drafted because I guess I wasn't paying attention, but I don't know how many else was paying attention in that one. But it's whatever. We'll go with the picks that I have in that one. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year for the Jaguars, and I'm looking forward to this season. And I'm feeling, I don't know about a playoff spot, but I definitely feel they'll be a team that'll be tough to play throughout the regular season.
Yeah, to be able, when you have a draft that happens and nobody knew what was going on. I'm not so sure about that, but I try to pride myself as a commissioner after 15 years doing this to let everybody know.
Yeah, I do too. I've commissioned and I try to tell people when it's going to happen.
Yeah, and try to go and have as many people show up. But it usually works out that 2 or 3 people miss. Wilson's already come out and said that he's going to be at a kid's party, so he won't be in the Zoom. So that's one down in the Zoom, but he'll be in the draft. I'm thinking, based on what I know, that at least one person won't be there. Vic doesn't have a life, so he'll be there. I don't have a life, so I'll be there. I'll be drunk because I'll be watching Watkins Glen, and then I'll come back and I'll be hosting the pregame show at 7:00. But either way, I mean, for me, Niners win against Green Bay, which never gets old. Trey Lance goes 4 for 5 in his preseason debut as a starter, and he looked great. He gets the Danny Gray touchdown. I mean, there's a lot to look at in regards to that. Oh, look at her. I'll have to go and follow her. Yeah, perfect passer rating, 4 for 5, 92 yards, touchdown. He's Sam Womack the third gets 2 picks, and they went and cut Darqueze Dennard in the process. Spencer Buford looks like he's going to be playing at a guard, one of the guard positions. Drake Jackson, who they drafted in the second round. Stinger, Dante Johnson, rib injury. But in the end, nothing. I mean, Jimmy Ward, hamstring. He's going to be out a couple of weeks, but then it's Jimmy Ward. He just got in the top 100, but he also, with Jimmy Ward, you're going to have injuries there, no matter what with him. Hamstring, suffered pretty bad hamstring injury, and quite a chance he's going to miss week 1. So that sucks. But it's hamstring train in a few weeks, so the preseason. Brunskill's not going to be playing. McGlinchey, and McGlinchey has injury issues. Shavarius Ward's not going to be playing for a little bit. Dante Johnson, week to week. Danny Gray got hurt after getting the touchdown. So Verrett's not going to play until the regular season, probably. Maurice Hurst and Jordan Matthews are out on the IR. So, I mean, the reality of the world is Niners looking good. injuries are within reason, considering what you're dealing with in the NFL, amongst other teams that have other injuries that are probably more devastating going into the second preseason game. And for me, I'm drafting fourth. And the way I always go about drafting in fantasy football is I just you take the best available player, just kind of let the board come to you. So, I mean, as Josh mentioned, you probably go running back first round. That's kind of the way to go. In my league, I always try to go old school. I'm an old school fantasy guy, so I put a lot of emphasis on running game. It's the way I played Madden when I used to play Madden, or college football, whatever. You want to have a good running back just as like a pillar. Quarterback play, you can get down into that tier 2 quarterback and get somebody that can go and make some big points. So there's that. You want to have 2 quarterbacks that are solid. You want to have that backup guy that can go and be a plug and play. Wide receivers now in this game, the current day NFL, you really could get down into WR3 territory, WR4 territory, get some real players. So running backs, it's really within the first 20 or so. Wide receivers, you can go a little deeper. Tight ends, it's really 5. Quarterbacks, there's probably about 15 to 20 that can do enough. So something to see. We'll see what happens. And we'll recap it here next week on the GSP in episode 130, along with all the racing as well. Josh, let us know what you're doing in regards to the sim side of things. And as I go and take a minute here.
Yeah, of course, with the sim side, in iRacing ran in the IndyCars, ran Gateway in the fixed series, and that was a struggle. Just couldn't quite get the runs I needed to off the corner exit. Just couldn't. I felt like turn 3 and 4 just didn't have the pace as other people did. Sometimes turn 1 and 2 I'd nail it, but then there were a lot of other times I wasn't able to get to the corner quite as what I wanted and lose time there. So it was a little bit of a struggle, but I ran a little bit there. Ran the 87 cars at Charlotte Motor Speedway, which that was a tire situation. Being able to, make it to the end on tires, taking one pit stop and then going the rest of the way. Being able to make it on tires, but didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. Made it up to second, but then the right front started to give out, and then I started fading, and then eventually I had to take a pit stop and ended up finishing lap down. But that's all right. That's how it goes sometimes. But it was a interesting race there. It was a race of survival, trying to run, without burning up the right front, but still managed to do that. I guess maybe I was running a little bit too hard, trying to run up in second. I thought maybe that I had saved enough tire this time to be able to make a run, for the lead, try to reel in the leader, but I wasn't quite able to do that. So that's all right though. Stuff happens. And then the Miatas ran at Summit Point Raceway and was able to finish in third. Got spun out in the first lap and then was able to make it back up through the field and finish in third place. So that was a good result there. Was able to really attack the corners pretty well with the Miatas. It's a fun car as always to race in. So ran some of that. I think that's what I did last week on iRacing as far as what I actually ran. But this week, iRacing, looking at the schedule, I think maybe doing some sports car racing at the Daytona Road Course, the original one, not the repave one, the one with the old pavement from 2008, 2009 era. let's see what else can we run this week on iRacing. In the NASCAR, the IndyCar series, fixed series will be at Pocono, so that might be interesting. And then the Open series will be at Gateway Worldwide Technology Speedway. NASCAR course will be at the Glen, so I think I will try that. I really like the road course style racing with the next gen car. Next gen car drives pretty well on the road courses, so I'm going to try to drive that one at some point this week. NASCAR, Watkins Glen, 87s at Rockingham. That might be interesting. Sports car racing, like I said, there's Daytona with the production car Sim Lab Challenge. That's just the Ford Mustang FR500, Mazda Miatas, and then the VW Jettas and Pontiac Solstice. That's always a solid series. It's a solid entry level series for road racing to get in. So probably try to run some of that. Think let's see, there's other Indy cars, or well, not IndyCar, but the entry level IndyCar series, Indy Pro 2000. I'm trying to look for that if they have that one listed this week. Don't see it. Maybe they're Indy Pro 2000 at Road America. So probably try to do that one as well at Road America. And I don't know. I think that's all I've got. Oh well, the F1, the Mercedes F1 car at Spa, which I have in iRacing, so I might try that if I feel confident enough in the F1 car, as it is a challenge to drive on iRacing. They obviously modeled it pretty well, and there's a lot of things that you have to make happen in the F1 car there. And on the other games, I think I did a little bit of F1 2022 this week. F1 22 ran just some online racing there, but just a little bit doing console play when I wasn't doing PC stuff. And of course, as always, anytime I try to stream, I'll try to have it on here on Twitch, and of course you can find that Twitch TV/UCR2, where you can go on there and watch my streams and put notification when I'm on, or I'll tweet it out and you can watch there, or I'll message you like I do to Phil when I'm on, and you can watch on there. And then of course you can watch on, or follow me on Twitter, follow my Twitter account at JP Huffine, and see all my stuff there. Probably be tweeting about Watkins Glen this weekend, see what I have to say about that, and of course the Indy cars this weekend. Be live tweeting that, or at least talking about what I thought about that race and what I thought about the Cup race and the Xfinity race. So, be sure to look out that, because usually what I say on Twitter is what I usually end up saying on this show. As this show being the expanded form of my thought from Twitter there. So that's what I'm thinking. Or you can see what I'm thinking there on Twitter. And then, of course, follow our YouTube channel, which, we've been putting our video form of this show on there. Follow us at Grip Shirt Podcast on there. Go subscribe, put post notifications on, like our videos, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do there for the videos. So, that's all I got. Of course, another great weekend of racing that we had at Richmond, and looking forward to seeing what we will watch at Gateway and at Watkins Glen this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Go and follow Josh. He's really good at his craft behind the wheel. He is an Indy 500 champion. Don't forget that. He is
never forget that.
He is good at fantasy sports. He's also good at prognosticating, and he hasn't brought out. I guess we should preview this. You're gonna bring out the algorithm next week because it's Daytona.
Yeah, I think we have to. Yeah.
So the algorithm will, for episode 130, it's going to come out of hibernation. It only comes out for the super speedways, and I guess we're going to have to start looking at some of these road courses as the sausage and peppers is done there in the background. But yeah, the algorithm has picked multiple winners. So stay tuned for that for next episode 130. You can find me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can find us at Gripstrip Pod on Twitter. We have tickets. We had tickets last week for Richmond. Unfortunately, nobody decided to take them. They were good tickets. There was plenty of seats available. So we got tickets from Map 360 Co. We'll have tickets this coming weekend for Watkins Glen as well, posted on that. So we have, trying to go and get through here. Yeah. Map 360 collectives instead of Map 360 Co. So we'll have tickets for Watkins Glen. We'll have hopefully have this show posted Wednesday. So if you are interested in going to Watkins Glen this coming weekend, hit us up. Either hit myself or Josh up for that. We can go and forward you those tickets. The tickets are good. They're good seats, and they're free. So it's a promotion that we're doing here on the Grifter Podcast. So it's for us, for the fans, for the people that listen to us, for the people that go and support us here on the Grifter Podcast. You can follow the Grifter Podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, Verbal, and of course on YouTube. Basically every episode for a while, I think at least this year, except for one on our YouTube page. Josh is taking care of it on that side. So you can go and watch us doing the show. You can go and see and listen to us that way. You can also listen to us here on whatever podcast audio platform you prefer. With that, we will be back next week. For episode 130 of the Grifter Podcast, we will go over the racing at Watkins Glen for Cup and Xfinity. We'll also discuss Indy cars at Gateway Worldwide Technologies Raceway. We'll also go over MotoGP, Moto2, Supercars, NHRA, and anything else that'll be coming up the following week. Formula One will be back. So we'll be previewing Formula One after the summer break. The summer break will be over. The Belgian Grand Prix will be coming up next week. So we'll preview that. I'm trying to see if I can coordinate side hustle projects going on there. But either way, we thank you for listening to Grifter Podcast. For Josh, I'm Phil. We'll be back next week. We'll talk football. We'll talk about Fall Brawl Draft, how we feel about our teams as well, along with our actual teams. But we'll talk about our fantasy team here next week, here on the Grifter Podcast for episode 130. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thank you as always. God bless. Take care of one another, and we'll see you next time.